I have to say, when this idea came up a little while ago, I thought it was actually Christmas Eve. And Clinton called me and said, let's do a rally in St. John. He called me from Ottawa. I said, let's do a rally in St. John. I said, I don't know. I said, you know, it's the dead of winter in the time frame that he suggested. And I said, I don't know what it's going to be like to organize a rally in St. John in the dead of winter. We could have any sort of weather, any sort of conditions, and all the places that they'd had rallies up until that point were large centers with many federal ridings, like Toronto, like Calgary, like Vancouver, big cities. And I said, you know what, let's do it anyway. He said, how many people can you get? He said, can you get 100 people? And I said, we can get 100 people. Well, I can tell you what. Earlier today, we had to change the venue from the hotel across the street because we have over double that here tonight, way over double that here tonight. And I have to say, I'm very, very impressed. Before I get too far into this, I want to just talk quickly about where we're at in New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada. Many of you have probably seen in the news over the last little while that all 338 electoral districts associations are now set up across Canada. This was done in about 3 months. It was done before Christmas, about 3 months from the launch of the party, and it has never been done before in Canada. People mocked us, people ridiculed us, and people said we couldn't do it. And it is now done. So I think this is a huge accomplishment for us. Moving forward, we're now moving into the stage of getting things finalized with our local associations with Elections Canada and getting them registered, and moving forward into candidate selection for all of our ridings across Canada. New Brunswick, in particular, is very strong. All of our associations here have strong members. And I want to just quickly, anybody that is on a local board here, just raise your hand. Anywhere in New Brunswick. That's good. I can tell you, I've been very impressed. I've traveled around the province for Max, talking with members. Anybody that's a member was welcome to come out. And I'm very, very impressed with the quality of people that we have. And if it's any indication, the local boards are any indication of the quality of candidates that we're going to have in New Brunswick, they are going to be a very young and energetic lot that know what they stand for. So I'm very happy with that. I have one other announcement that I'd like to make, and you're the first people probably in Canada to learn this, but we had our first candidate recognized by Elections Canada today in the by-elections, and that gives us official party status as a party. For those of you who don't understand how important that is, it's about fundraising. And fundraising drives political parties. So I will hit you up and encourage everybody that is out there to make a donation to us, to feed the party, to get things going. But it's a lot easier now that we have official tax status. Up until this point, we've raised a lot of money, but it's all been from people who really care about the ideas that we stand for. And they've made those donations without getting a tax receipt for their donation, unlike all the other political parties. Going forward from today, we now have the same status as all other political parties, and all donations will be eligible for tax credit. So it's a huge day for us in the party. It's a huge accomplishment. And I'm going to let Max talk a little bit more about where we're going as a party. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Max. He's a big part of the reason we're here. He's a man who has shown incredible courage and bravery and taken a big step that very few people in Canada would take. And he's shown a lot of leadership. He's a person with an incredible background, having held several cabinet portfolios, including foreign affairs and industry. It was said earlier today at a Chamber of Commerce lunch that it was once said about Max that he was the best industry minister Canada has had in 30 years. And that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, he changed a lot. He was an industry minister who went there with an agenda of change and actually did it. Very few politicians can say that. He's not a politician who will pander to you. He won't tell you how good looking you are. He won't tell you what a great city you're from and it's the favorite city that he's ever visited. He's not going to tell you those things. In fact, what I like about Max is that he says things that people sometimes have to sit back and think, did a politician really just say that? because he approaches things from the point of view as, if you don't agree with me, then please don't vote for me. And once in New Brunswick, I actually saw him say that to 2 dairy farmers in Bathurst. And I was shocked and awed at the same time. He said, you are never going to agree with me. I will not protect your privilege over the rights of 36 million Canadians that are paying $1,000 more a year in their grocery bills to protect your privilege. So please, don't vote for me. And I was shocked at that and awed and impressed all at the same time. So he's a man of courage. He's got an incredible background. I talked about his political background, but he's also been VP at National Bank and Standard Life. He has a degree in business and a degree in law. And from a personal point of view, I think that he's a gift to Canadians, and he's got bold political courage, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks. It's a rarity in Canada. Political courage is a rarity in Canada. So Max, Max, you're a gift to us in New Brunswick, and you're a gift to all of Canada, and Canada needs the message that you offer, and you're the only one with the courage to do it. Without further ado, I want to introduce the leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier.
Yes, I'm very pleased to be here, and it's always fun to be with people who share our idea and our principles. So, you know, we started the day today, and I was preparing myself for a speech before the Chamber of Commerce, and I decided to speak about our ideas and our platform and what make us different from the other political parties. And the most important, I think, is we have a strong platform with bold ideas, and we want to do the reform that need to be done for our country. I will fight for that, and I'm not alone, and I'm really pleased with the organization here in New Brunswick. Actually, I was at the beginning of the week in Regina, Saskatchewan. I was in Saskatoon, and I will go back to Calgary next week. But the most important is, like you said, Adam, we have an organization all across the country. And I can tell you that when we started that in September last year, people were saying, oh, Bernier is lazy, Bernier won't be able to build a party, he doesn't have enough time, it's impossible to have an organization all across the country in a year. But like Adam said, we did that in 3 months. So I want to thank you very much, because it's because of you that we were able to do it. So we are a real grassroots movement, and that's important. We have riding associations all across the country. So the next step now is to have candidates all across the country. And we have our first candidate in a by-election, Laura Lynn in Burnaby South. She's been approved by Election Canada before Jack Mead, before the leader of the NDP. So she's first now, and we're going to work hard for her to be first the 25th of February, when will be the time for people to vote for this by-election. We have a great candidate, and we have another great candidate also in Toronto, York Simcoe, near Toronto, the riding over there, a lawyer, Robert, that is very well known in his community. So, and we'll have also a good candidate in Outremont in Montreal that we'll announce next week. So because we have, I think, great ideas, we have an organization everywhere, we have people that are helping us, we are able to have good candidates like that. And I'm asking you also here in New Brunswick to help us to find great candidates for the next election in a couple of months from now. I had some questions from the journalists about Mr. Bernier. Okay, you did a lot in the last 3 months, you created that party, but why people are supporting your party? What's happening in Canada? And my answer is always the same. My answer is because we have principle, And because we believe in people, we believe that you have the right and the dignity to make your own decision and determine your own destiny. We don't believe in a big, fat government that will always intervene in your day-to-day life. We believe that we must respect our Constitution. And we believe also that in Canada, we don't need to try to please every special interest group to win election. I think we will be more, and we are more credible when we are telling the truth and what we think must be done in this country. And maybe you're tired to hear that, but I want to speak a little bit about the cartel of supply management. So you know what it is, but I just want to speak about that just a little bit to let you know why it's so important to have policies that are good for the people. That's why we call our party the People's Party of Canada. We want to put people first and having policies that will be good for Canadians. And supply management is a nice example of political parties trying to please a special interest group, the dairy, poultry, and eggs producers. There are 19,000 producers under supply management in Canada. And we are 37 million Canadians. So the Liberals, the Conservatives, the NDP, the Bloc Québécois, the Green, they all want to please that cartel because they think that they won't have a lot of seats in rural Canada if they don't do that. And I'm very proud to fight for Canadians and, to explain that policy. When we started to speak about supply management and that cartel, that they're charging twice the price for milk, poultry, and eggs, and, we can cut that by half and people can save around $1,000 a year. People didn't know about that. The more we speak about it, the more people understand and the more support we have. But that's a nice example about politicians try to please that special interest group. And imagine how will they be able, all the other parties, to resist the pressure from other interest groups. Other people that ask for subsidies or a legal privilege or less competition by a new regulation at the federal level, they won't be able to resist these pressure groups if they're not able to resist the cartel. So that's an example that is very important. We're doing the opposite. And we know that if we speak about the right policies and explain that to the population, they will understand, and I think they will be on our side. So supply management for us, we must get rid of that. And I said to the dairy farmers in my writing, we will do that on a transition period, and we want you to be able to export your products. They're not able to export right now. They're producing good milk, good cheese, and good products, but they are obliged to sell their products to the Canadian market only. So I want them to be able to export, and I know that they will be able to do that. We'll do that on a transition period of 5 or 8 years. And yes, we will have to buy back their quota, and they will have to decide what they want to do with that money, to reinvest in their production or to do other things. That will be their decision. But the most important is we will have the right policies for Canadian consumers, for the people. And speaking about what is good for the people, I'm in New Brunswick. And when I said to people in Western Canada, in Regina, I was there last Tuesday, said, I want to speak about equalization. And I had a discussion about equalization with them. And they're not so happy about that equalization formula. And as you know, equalization, it is part of our Constitution. It's a great program that is there to help provinces that are supposed to be poor, like my own province in Quebec, like New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI. So that program is there in the Constitution. We cannot abolish it. But people out west, they think that the program it is too generous, and it is not normal that a province like Quebec received equalization money for the last 50 years. So there's no incentive for Quebec or New Brunswick to develop their own natural resources or to have better economic policies at the provincial level. And I had that discussion with them, and I said, I'm the only politician who wants to review the formula for being sure that it will be fair, for maybe being a little bit less generous with a transition period. And I will be in Quebec, and I was in Quebec to speak about that, and I will be in Atlantic Canada also to speak about that. Because I think that people, and I think you're like me, you're proud and I'm proud. And I said to Quebecers in French that I'm not proud to be a Quebecers when we received equalization money. So that must be the opposite. My own province in Quebec must receive $0 from equalization because at that time Quebec will be a rich province. And I think that's the same thing for Atlantic Canada. And so that's what I said this morning at the Chamber of Commerce, and that will be the same message in Halifax tomorrow. And if you ask other leaders, Andrew Scheer won't speak about that because he thinks that he won't have vote in Quebec and he won't have vote in New Brunswick. But if you speak about it and you've explained the policy that it's a bad policy, I think you'll have support. And I was very pleased to hear your Prime Minister, and I want to quote him. Premier, sorry, yeah. Premier, yeah. And I want to quote him on equalization. And it's very encouraging. He said about the same thing that I just said, and I quote him, your Premier, we just don't seem to want to move as a province. We are happy to accept handouts, but we don't seem to be ready, willing to make the changes necessary to allow us to contribute to our own well-being. So, is the first Premier that received equalization money to say to Ottawa that we must cut the transfer or transferring a little bit less money for giving the right incentive to people and to his government and other government. And François Legault in Quebec said a little bit the same thing during the election campaign that we had in Quebec a couple of months ago. He said that Quebec must be a half province and not a have-not province. And he's right. So let's have this debate, and I think we can have this debate. It's a shame that Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer they don't want to speak about that. But I think it's too important for the unity of our country. It's important for Western Canadian, and it's important also for Eastern Canadian. And speaking about the unity of our country, there's another subject that is very important, pipelines. And I think you'll like that one. Pipelines, I'm for Energy East, but too bad that the private sector decided to not going ahead with that project because of the bad regulations and legislation in Ottawa. We must scrap Bill C-69 and Bill C-48, and we must streamline the process to approve pipelines. We must do that. And at the same time, when the Premier of Quebec said that there is no social acceptability for a national pipeline through Quebec, I don't agree with him. I don't agree with him because there are, people in Quebec, they know that it's safer to transport oil and gas by pipeline than by train. They remember the big tragedy that happened in Quebec 5 years ago at Lac Mégantic. It is safer for the population. It is safer also for the environment. And the Montreal Economic Institute did a survey 3 weeks ago, and 57% of Quebecers said that they want to buy their oil and gas from Canada and not elsewhere. So the politicians at the provincial level in Quebec, they don't represent the population. But the politicians at the federal level, they don't have the courage to act for being sure that we'll have a pipeline that will help your economy here in Saint John and also in Montreal, that will create wealth and jobs here in this province. But they don't have the courage to act because the federal government can act. And that's the position of our party. What we want to do, we want to, if it's necessary, to use the Constitution, the section 9210 in our Constitution. And if you use that, you'll be able to declare the construction of a pipeline of our national interests for the advantage of our country. If you do that, it's the federal government that will have the last say, and it's the federal government that will have to decide. And I said that in French on a TVA. I was doing an interview over there, and they asked me a question about Energy East. And they said, Mr. Bernier, Quebec doesn't want that pipeline, so what are you going to do if you're elected? I say, I will do some consultation, but after that, yes, we have to build that pipeline. It is too important for the future of our country, and I'll do it. But the journalist said, Quebec doesn't want that. There's no social acceptability in Quebec. I said, no, it's not true, and I will have to impose the pipeline if the Quebec government doesn't want a pipeline, use the Constitution. And so the journalists look at me, and I don't think you'll have a lot of votes in Quebec. But Quebecers understand that, and I think I will have a lot of votes telling the truth. We need a pipeline for the unity of our country, but also for the prosperity of our country. And that will be good for you here in New Brunswick. When the journalist asked me this afternoon, I did an interview with a couple of journalists, and do you have something special to offer to New Brunswick? And I said, something special? No. Our platform is for every Canadian, all Canadians. It's the People's Party. What we are offering to people here and to you in New Brunswick, it's the same platform that I'm offering to other Canadians. But the pipeline for you, it is a little bit more important than people in British Columbia. And I understand that. So that will help your economy. But at the same time also, speaking about equalization, being fair, that will help you and help everybody, because your provincial government, like the Quebec government, if we do a reform in the equalization, they will be able to write the right economic policies that will bring more free markets and more freedom. Because now there's no incentive on the equalization. If a province develops the private sector, the more prosperous they'll be, the less equalization they will have. And they don't want that. So that's why we need a transition period that will be good for Quebec, for Atlantic Canada, and at the end, for the benefit of our country. So that's the way we are doing politics. We are speaking about what it is important, with passion, with conviction, without any compromise. And I think people appreciate that. And I like that. I think it's my best time in politics right now. We have a strong platform that is based on the platform that I put forward during the leadership campaign for the Conservative Party of Canada. And I think it was popular because I had 49% of the votes. And I decided to quit the party, you may know, because, I tried to push these ideas, and I was asking the leadership. I asked the leadership of the party and Andrew Scheer to take some of our ideas for the next campaign. And Andrew Scheer said, no, Maxime, we won't take any of your bold ideas. And after that, he said, you're not speaking anymore for the party. So that's why I decided to create our own party based on that platform. And I think because of our freedom ideas, it's because of the ideas that we were able to have more than 33,000 founding members. And I want to tell you an anecdote. In the House, my seatmate, it is Elizabeth May. She's a great lady, and we didn't fight. We didn't fight because in the beginning I said to Elizabeth, if we want to have a good relationship, you're my seatmate, I think we must not speak about politics, because you won't agree with me and I won't agree with you. And she said, okay. But, I have a couple of questions for you, if you can help me. And she said, okay. So I asked her, how many members do you have? She said, we have 19,000 members. And I said, your party exists for the last 35 years? She said, yes. And I said, I'm proud to tell you that we have more than 33,000 members after 4 months. And I must admit that she was a little bit impressed. But also, we're speaking about building a party. We need members, we have members. We need ideas, we have ideas. We need good candidates, and we will have good candidates. But also, we need to be able to raise money to help us to be very efficient at the next campaign. And actually, we were able, because since the beginning, Since September the 14th up to today, we raised more than $650,000. So thank you very much. And I can tell you that we are managing your money in a very efficient way, and the goal is to be an efficient political party all across the country. And we didn't spend $100,000 on a logo. So if you don't like our logo, the cost was only $10. But we will spend our money and the money that you are giving us to be sure to build this party and being very efficient during the electoral campaign. And actually, you know, the Conservative Party of Canada, they have more than $30 million in bank for the campaign. We think that we will be able to do a campaign with about maybe $5 million, and we'll be able to raise that because starting early, maybe tomorrow or next week, you will be able to donate with a tax credit, and that will help us to raise more money. But we will use the social media, and if you are using social media, don't hesitate to retweet our tweet and being engage with our opponent on Twitter and on social media. So don't hesitate to help us. And I think we're very good on social media. And actually, I'll give you a scoop. We just did our first ad that will be on social media. The ad will be ready early next week. But I need you because it is a new concept. If you don't, and we have a lot of ideas, so that ad, it's based on a new concept. If you like the ad, don't hesitate to tell us. And if you don't like the ad, don't hesitate to tell us also. If you like the ad, we'll use the same concept and we'll have maybe 6, 7, and 10 more ads based on the same concept. If you don't like the ad, we'll stop that concept and do more traditional advertising on YouTube and maybe during the campaign on TV. So it's a short ad, about 35 seconds. You'll see it. I don't want to speak a little bit more about it. So I will tweet about it beginning of next week, and you'll be able to see that. So let us know. It's a different way also to do advertising in politics. So I hope you like it, but if not, you know, we will listen to you. So that being said, as you know, we don't like taxes, and we want to cut your taxes. We want you to have more of your own money in your own pockets. But we're different than the other political parties because we're saying how we're going to do it. And, you know, because at the same time, we want to balance the budget. So we want to help, you know, the poor and the hardworking families and all Canadians. So that's why our tax reform is very simple. Everybody who's earning less than $15,000 won't pay an income tax at the federal level. And people earning between $15,000 to $100K, they will have only one rate at 15%. And people earning more than $100K, they will have another rate at 25%. That will cost the federal government. So the way to do that, we must save some money. And we have ideas also how to save some money. So we will, as you know, abolish the CRTC in telecom. We can save a lot of money there. We will also, I know that you know CBC and Radio-Canada. So we need to save some money there. The budget for CBC, it's, The budget for CBC, the government is giving to CBC $1.3 billion a year. So we can save a lot of money, and I said CBC must be like PBS in the state. If they're so good, they will have people who want to listen to that and pay for it. So that's a big reform, and we're very serious. We can save money there. We can save money also on foreign aid. And, you know, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, they're spending this year and next year, they will spend $2.3 billion. They will give that to other countries to fight climate change. Imagine what we can do with $2.3 billion here in Canada. So we can save on foreign aid about between $4 and $5 billion. But we must help people that need to be helped. And we'll do that, if, an environmental disaster happen somewhere, we'll be there. If we have a humanitarian crisis, we'll be there. But we won't be there to build road in Africa or to give $1 billion to a Chinese bank to help the Chinese to be more influent, more present in Africa. We won't also send money to help other countries to fight climate change. So we can save a lot, and being that the money will be used here in Canada. And speaking about money, so I'm the only one to speak about corporate welfare. Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer, they want to keep the status quo. They want to tax a small business entrepreneur here in St. John and forcing him or her to pay taxes to give that to Bombardier or GM. So we don't believe in that. It's not fair. So a small business here in St. John, they won't be able to have $1 million in subsidies or $233 million like Bombardier had, or $1 billion like Bombardier, like GM had also. So it's not fair. So we need to cut that. We can save $5 billion and we'll use that to have a flat tax for businesses at 10%, and at the same time we'll be able also to abolish the capital gains tax in Canada. So that's a huge reform, and that's reforms that are putting more money in your pockets. And speaking about money in your pocket, the Constitution. We don't want to reopen the Constitution. We don't want to change the Constitution. We just want the federal government to respect the Constitution. And right now, the federal government intervene in provincial jurisdiction. Why are they doing that? Because they want to buy votes. They want to please. So, I was in Quebec a month ago. And they have a project in Quebec. They want another bridge between the south shore of Quebec and and Quebec, the north shore. They want another bridge or a tunnel, and they call that the troisième lien, the third link between the north shore and the south shore of Quebec. And I did some interview, and the jurist asked me, Maxime, you're from both the south shore of the St. Lawrence, so you must be for the new bridge. I said yes. But I don't want to do anything for that. And they said, Andrew Scheer was here last week, and he said he's going to put money to build a new bridge between Quebec and the South Shore. And you just said that you don't want to build a new bridge. I said, no, it is not our jurisdiction to build a bridge in Quebec. Why people from New Brunswick will be taxed to pay for a bridge in Quebec? Why Quebecers will pay taxes to build a road in New Brunswick? Local road or bridge or provincial jurisdiction. So what I said, I want to be fair. We will abolish that program, the program that Andrew Scheer wants to keep to pay for a bridge, because he thinks that if he's saying yes for that bridge, he will have more votes in Quebec. But no, I think he won't have a lot of votes in Quebec, because we're telling the truth. We'll abolish that program, and we'll be able to lower our taxes at the federal level. And if Quebec want a bridge and they don't have enough money, they will be able to raise taxes in Quebec for that bridge. So that's a local matter, and local matter must be paid by the provinces, not by the federal government. And so you can, at the federal level, save a lot of money, but at the same time, we will lower our taxes. So if Quebec want that bridge, it's up to them, and they will be able to tax their citizens for that. And it will be fair, because a citizen in New Brunswick won't pay for a bridge in Quebec, and the guy in Quebec won't pay for a road that is in New Brunswick. But if it's a national infrastructure the federal government has a role to play and will be there. So that's our understanding of the Constitution. We must respect the Constitution, not interfere in provincial jurisdiction. But politicians are doing that right now because it's a way for them to be present and by vote and telling you what you want to hear. So what I'm telling Canadians, it's what it is, the reform that we must do for having a freer and a better country. And I think that's why people are coming to us. And speaking about people that are coming to us, I had a question about, Mr. Bernier, if you're successful, you will split the vote, and Justin Trudeau will win. So, and I look at the journalist, I said, okay, if Justin Trudeau is winning, it will be my fault, and if Andrew Scheer is not able to win, it will be my fault. And the journalist looked at me, and I said to him, I said, listen, when I was with Andrew Scheer, when I was a Conservative, Andrew Scheer was not able to win against Justin Trudeau. If you look at the poll at that time, he was always between 6 and 8 points behind Justin Trudeau. I'm not with him anymore, and Andrew Scheer is still behind Justin Trudeau to 6 or 4 points. So Andrew Scheer cannot win with Maxime Bernier, and Andrew Scheer cannot win without Maxime Bernier. So if we want to beat Justin Trudeau, we are the only real alternative, real conservative alternative, real limited government in Ottawa alternative, real free markets alternative. And it's going very well. People are coming to us. We are able to build this party. We have a momentum. But the journalist looked at me and said, you think you can be prime minister with a new party like that? It can take you 2, 3, or 4 elections before that. And I said, I look, I'm a francophone from Quebec, and I know a little bit some politics in France, and I like to follow that a little bit. And I said, Macron, the president of France, he was a socialist 11 months before the presidential election in France. He decided to quit the Socialist Party. He created his own party, and 11 months later, he is the president of France. So everything can happen in politics, and I think that we feel something. When you're coming to an event like that, and we're not in an election campaign, you're coming here to hear about our program, to know more, and to be able to be out there and to speak about what we believe. And I think we'll be able to be a huge surprise in the next election. And maybe we can be in government, maybe we can be the official opposition, but for sure we'll have the balance of power and we'll be able to push our policies if we are not the one that, if I'm not the Prime Minister. But I can tell you that I'll do everything, and I like what I'm doing. I will travel, and I'm campaigning right now. I'm doing rallies like that all across the country, and our platform is ready. We have our platform ready, and I'm speaking about our platform, and I will do that the next 10 months until the election. So that's the difference between us and the Conservative, because Andrew Scheer, if you ask him, he doesn't have a platform. Do you know why he does not have a platform? Do you know why he's not ready to tell you his ideas and platform?
Waiting for the polls.
Yeah. They're too busy of doing survey and polling and focus group. So they're not doing politics by convictions with ideas. They're doing politics by, you want to listen to that, I will tell you that. But at the end, there's no conviction there. And maybe if he's elected, he will do the opposite of what he told you during a campaign. So that's why they're not ready. They're doing a lot of polling, and when they'll be ready, maybe in April, maybe in May, maybe in June, they will have a platform. And but it won't be a real free market platform, because Andrew Scheer said, in November last year, he did an interview with the Toronto Sun. And he said, and that was very interesting, and I want to quote him because it's very important. He said, I hope I have the quote. Yeah. Okay. Last November in Toronto, he did an interview with the Toronto Sun. And he said that the Liberals have moved so far to the left, and that was a discussion that the Liberals moved so far to the left, and I agree with him on that. And that's why we have some Liberals who are supporting us, people who voted for Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin for a balanced budget and lower taxes. But now the Liberals, yes, they are moving to the left. And he said, and I quote, "We, the Conservative Party of Canada, have an opportunity to say that we are a pragmatic, centrist party with room for lots of different views on lots of different issues." End of the quote. Yet, pragmatic, centrist, lot of different views. So, no principle, no values, no conviction. They're telling you what you want to hear. If you want to hear supply management is good, I'll tell you that. If you want to hear that, we will lower your taxes, I will tell you that, but I won't tell you how I will do that. So, he is a traditional politician that is a centrist and try to please everybody. But when you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. So I prefer to have conviction. And, I like to, the Liberal and the Conservative, I like to speak about their ideas when they have ideas. On supply management, it's the same thing. So the Conservative are like the Liberal. On foreign aid, it's the same thing. They don't want to touch that. On corporate welfare, Andrew Scheer wanted to keep the status quo on that. They have the same policies. I can go on and go on. On immigration, they have the same policies. Andrew Scheer wants to have more immigrants, and Justin Trudeau the same thing. We are the only party, and we are pro-immigration, but we just want to go back to the average number of new Canadians than we had under Stephen Harper. 250,000 new Canadians a year, but Justin Trudeau increased that by 40% at 350,000 a year. So let's go back and having fewer immigrants that are coming here for the right reason because they share our Canadian values and our Western civilization. And, the journalist actually said to me, "Maxime, you have a radical proposal on immigration." It is not radical. 49% of Canadians said that they want fewer immigrants. Only 6% of Canadians in an Angus Reid survey said only 6% that they want more immigrants. Who is radical? Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer, not us. We just want to go back, and yes, it's important to have more economic immigrants. You need that here in Atlantic Canada, and we'll have a bigger ratio of economic immigrants. So more economic immigrants, fewer refugees, fewer reunification of family, but also an immigration system that is sustainable. What happened right now at the border in Quebec? It's illegal immigration, and we must fix that. And we are ready to fix it. I'm ready to sit down with President Trump, and there's a loophole with the third safe country agreement. It is not normal that these person are coming to Canada and supposed to be refugee. The Department of Immigration said that, not a politician, the Department of Immigration said that 40% of them will have to be deported in 3 years from now because they're not real refugees. And it's a big cost for us. It will be about in 5 years, $1 billion that we'll have to pay for that. We need to fix that problem, and that's very important for the integrity of our immigration system. And yes, I want to help the refugees, but I want to help the real refugees that are waiting in a refugees camp in another country, not people coming from the state of New York. Their life is not in danger in New York. So I just want to end by telling you that you are giving me a lot of energy. And I'm very proud to be the leader of the People's Party of Canada. And I'm very proud that you're helping us to do what we did in the past 3 months. And, you know, I think the future is with us and for us. It's good in politics to have the right ideas, but it's better to have the right ideas at the right time. And I think we have the right ideas at the right time. People are ready for a change. 57% of Canadians said in a poll that they're ready to vote for a new party at the federal level. So that's people who can vote for us. 30% of the population, Canadian population, 30% of them didn't vote at the last federal election because they don't believe in politicians anymore. And, you know, we are speaking to them because we're doing politics differently. And we don't try to please everybody. We're telling people what need to be done for a better and a freer country. We can have these people. Imagine if we have only 15% of them on the 30% that didn't vote, and if they decide to vote for us, that would be great. So we can have a lot of people that share our values. Actually, I was in Newfoundland, and a guy that is the president of the Riding Association over there told me that, Maxime, I always voted NDP, and I'm very happy to be the president of your Riding Association. And I said, what? Did you read our platform? And he said, yes. And I'm with you because it's very important for me. Two important issues are very important for me. Ending corporate welfare, and I think that it's unfair for entrepreneurs, and I'm sure that you'll do that, but also ending the cartel of supply management. It is the opposite of Robin Hood. You are taxing the hardworking families and the poor and giving that to the rich dairy producer. And you know, it's so important for me that I want to work for you and be sure that you'll be elected. So we can have people from different backgrounds that are coming because they like our platform and our ideas. So we'll fight for that. And we'll fight for them because it's the only thing to do. You know, what is the goal to be in politics if you don't believe in anything? I don't want to, and that's why I quit the Conservative Party of Canada. When Andrew Scheer told me that they don't want to take any of our ideas, I said, what is the goal to be elected and member of parliament from both if I don't believe in the platform, in the Conservative platform? You know, I had the choice at that time to go back in the private sector or to use all these ideas and to create the party. That's what we did. And I'm very happy with that. And I think will be a huge success. I want to thank you for giving us your time, because time is money. You're here tonight. You can be in your house and with your wife or daughters, but you decided to come here tonight. And that's giving me a lot of energy to go on and continue. And I can tell you that, you know, it's a long marathon and it will be a long election. I started that last September. And I'm there and I'm ready to do it. I'm training every day. I like to run. That's my only sport. But now I'm running the marathon of my life. And that's a very interesting marathon. And I'm able to do that because of you. So thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very much. Thank you.